Welcome back to this NASSCO MIS training series. In today's video, we'll be creating our first survey. Okay? And the survey we're going to be recreating is our PVHH checklist. Okay, so we're going to recreate this form using our MIS. Okay? And the first thing I want us to notice is this information here. So that's name of enumerator. This is actually done when you're assigning the survey of the MIS. Okay, so we're not going to bother ourselves with the name of the enumerator or the enumerator code, right? Because it's tied, right? So once you know the person's name, once you know the enumerator, you already know their code because they're unique. And the supervisor and the CBT lead code, all of this is also tied together, so we don't need to bother ourselves with this information. The geopolitical zone, you don't need to bother about this. The system is intelligent enough to figure this out on its own. Just by knowing the states, it already can tell what geopolitical zone the state is meant to be in. By knowing the local government, you can know the states and so on and so forth. So all this information is already handled by the system, so we're not going to focus too much on those. We're going to start our survey from household number. Okay, so our inputs actually start from household number because the MIS is smart enough to figure out all the rest of this stuff for us, and when we're assigning our survey, we then select the enumerator we want to assign it to. Okay, so the first thing we want to do here is log into our MIS. I've already done that. And I'm going to navigate to NASSCO, and I'm going to come down here to survey and click on new survey. Okay, and here's where we manage our sections. Okay, so we need to know what are the different sections that are going to be in our survey. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly look at the different sections here. Okay, so we have household number. So this is just our basic section. Okay, is the household ready to participate in the survey? Let me say yes. Okay, so we have our basic section here for all this information. Okay, so just our basic information for the household number and to ask the participant if he's ready to participate. Okay, and the next section is the name of the household. Sorry, the name of the head of the household. Okay, so that's your next section. Your next section is the household member roster. Okay, and the next section after that is your household assets, and I believe there is okay, I think that's it. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. So there are 4 sections in this survey. Okay, so let's see how we can create those sections back in our MIS. Okay, so here we have our basic info section. Okay, so this is a basic data capture section, and yes, I want it to be required. So I just say yes, serial number is 1 because this is my first section. So I'm going to say 1 as the serial number, and this is the name of my section. And yes, I want it to be required, and the type is a basic data capture section. Okay, so I just want to capture some basic single information. Okay, so I'm going to add that section. Okay, now the next section I want is my let's check that again. So it's my head of household. Okay, so I want to add the head of house. Okay, so and this is my second section. So the serial number is 2, and this is also required. And I'm going to make this a data capture section as well, and I'm going to add that. So now we have 2 different sections here. Okay, we haven't started adding our forms to our sections. I just want to create all the sections first, and I will proceed to start to add the forms I want in those sections. Okay, so and the third section we have here is the household member section. Okay, so I'm going to say household member. Okay, and also want that to be required. And the household members section, if we go back here, you can see that this section is empty. Okay, and the way this section works is based on the number of the people in the household, it will determine how many forms would be in this household member roster section. Okay, so if I was to say 2, you can see that 2 forms appear in this section to capture the two household members we specified. Okay, so if we said 4, it will be 4 forms that would appear. Okay, you can see as 3 and 4. So 4 forms appear. So it's tied. This section is tied to a question from a different section. Okay, so when we see this type of behavior, we want to use a one-to-many relationship. Okay, so back in my MIS, I want this to be a one-to-many relationship section. Okay, so I'm going to add that in there just so we can get that kind of behavior. Okay, and if we go to our next section, it's our household assets section. Okay, so I'm going to add that in as my fourth section. So household assets. Okay, I'm going to say yes, I want this to be required, and this is a basic data capture section. Okay, so we have 4 sections. 3 of them are data capture sections, and 1 is a one-to-many relationship section. Okay, so let's start adding the forms that we want in each section. Okay, so in my basic info section, if I go back up here, okay, you can see I just have household number and is the household ready to participate in the survey. Okay, so I've already created the forms that will be in this section. So I'm just going to click on the icon here and give the form I want to add a name. So I'm just going to call this basic information. Okay, and here is where I search for the form I've already created. So the form I created is called household basic info. Okay, and this pulls directly from your database. So you just type in the initials and it will filter the list for you, and you can select the form you've created. Okay, and here's a preview of the form on my right. You can see that household serial number we're looking for, and the question, is your household ready to participate in this survey, also appears. So this is the form I want, and I want it to be required, and I say add to form. Okay, so now I have this form in my first section. Okay, the next section is the head of house. Okay, so again, I come here and I say manage forms in this section. I use this icon to get there. Okay, and serial number can be 2, that is fine, and the name of this section is head of house info, and the form I have for this section is called head of house. Okay, so this is the form. You can see the preview here that I want in that section. Okay, and yes, I want this to be required, and I say add to section. Okay, I close, and you can see my form has been added to my section. Okay, so we have 2 sections with two different forms in them. Okay, and if I wanted to preview the forms, all I have to do is come here to this arrow that says view form, click on it, and I can view what the form looks like in each section. Okay, just like that. Okay, now the third section is the household member section, which is our one-to-many relationship section. Okay, so remember to configure this behavior where the number of forms that will be displayed to us in our household member roster is tied to a different question. So tied to this number here. What we want to do is configure that. So we're going to go to configure child options. Okay, so we'll just click on this button here, and we need to select a child survey. So what survey is going to be displayed to us is the first thing we need to select. So I'm going to say it's the household member survey. Okay, so this is the form, or you can say a survey that I've created already that I want to use to capture information on multiple people. So I've already created these household members. Okay, and if I wanted to be fixed, say if I just wanted say if I just wanted information on two people, I didn't want it to be tied to something else. I could just specify a minimum number here to, let's say, two, and a maximum number of two, and it would only be two people I would capture information on in the household. Okay, and if I wanted to make it tied to a field or a question like we have in our PVHH, I have to set dynamic. Okay, so if I want it to be a fixed number, I use fixed. If I want it to be dynamic, that's tied to another field, I can use dynamic. Okay, so now if we go to dynamic, we can select children section. So I'm just going to use the basic info, and the key is basic information. Okay, so this is our form here, and the field I want to use is number of persons. Okay, so and the text that will be here is what, how many people are in this household. Okay, and here the plus or minus here indicates whether, if we like put a -1, for example, it would mean we want to capture um, -1 the number of persons you put. So say for example, if you say the number of people in your household are 5, if you put -1 here, it means you're going to capture information on 4 people. Okay, so if you put a 0, it means you want to capture information on 5 people. Okay, so the reason we use -1 here is you already have information on the head of house, and he counts as one person in the household. Okay, so you use a -1 if you've already captured information on the head of house and you want to capture information on the rest of the household. Okay, and the display fields, I'm just going to select household. I'm going to say yes, I want this to be required. And the length field, I'm going to say household. Okay, and I'm going to say save relationship settings, and that's it for that section. Okay, we'll preview our survey so you see what that section looks like. And our household assets, what I wanted to do here is our normal data capture section. I will just say household assets is the name. Assets is the name. The form is household assets form. Okay, and yes, it's a required section, and this is our section 4, and I'm going to add this. Okay, and now we have forms in all our sections. Okay, so we have our 4 sections with our 4 forms. Okay, and then we can move on to our additional settings. Okay, so remember our primary display field is just a unique identifier we can specify. So I'm just going to say the section that my primary display field is in my basic information. So say I want to, let me come back here and say I want to use this household serial number as my unique identifier for my record. I'm going to say, okay, it's in my first section. In what form? My basic information form. And the field I want to use is household number. Okay, so now it's going to use the household number to identify records that are saved each time the survey is completed. Okay, and this is where I specify my data preload form. Okay, so I already have a data preload form that I've already created, so I'm just going to select one of them here. Okay, so this is how we can preload data in the form before we assign them. Okay, so if there are values we want to set that can be changed by the enumerator, we can do that on the data preload form before we assign it. And I'll show you what that looks like anyways. It's fine. Okay, so let's keep going here. I'm going to move on to end conditions, and say we wanted our survey to end the moment our participant says he doesn't want to participate in the survey. Okay, so that question is in our first section, which is basic information, and is participation in survey. So if he says no, okay, then the survey should end. So I'm going to add this. So if he answers this question with a no, it means our survey would end. Okay, I can also do another one here. Say I can move on to my head of house section, house info section, and say if your age is say 12, then the survey should also end. So if you input an age of 12, then the survey should end. Okay, we can do a whole lot of questions, however we want. We can select if you don't own a radio, if you don't own a mobile phone, if your answer is no, then the form should also end. So you can set as many of these as you want. Then I'm going to go to finish, give my survey a name, and if I want a comment to also be here, I can also add a comment that can be viewed by the enumerators, and all I do is save. Okay, so that is how we can simply create a survey. Okay, so we add our sections, we add our different forms to the sections, we decide if we want a section to be a data capture section or a one-to-many relationship section. um, we set our primary display field, our preloaded form, our set our end conditions, and that's it. That is how we create our surveys. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in a next video.